John Glenn received the highest of honors in the humblest of ways.
The other awardees who have really done so many great things, I'm sitting there beside the man who eradicated smallpox.
Glenn's very life mirrors American history. He not only lived it, he distinguished himself in it. A decorated World War II Marine fighter pilot, test pilot, statesman, astronaut.
When I was a kid growing up in New Concord, there wasn't such a word as astronaut, so I didn't know.
It wasn't one of your aspirations.
No, there wasn't such a word. And Annie she jokes about that. She said back when I first came home and used the word astronaut, she sort of looked at it and said, well, maybe we ought to cut out that second A. Well, if you think about that, that spells astronut.
He was the first American to orbit the Earth, and decades later, the oldest to go back into space.
That was such a fascinating thing, and we were dealing in a field that hadn't been dealt with before, brand new. And so we're sort of feeling our way in that with NASA and with all the other people, the 7 of us that were picked up that were there to begin with. And so it was a very interesting time period.
We were there when Glenn arrived with his family and greeted a dear friend. He is perhaps the only person who would refer to former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright as a flunky.
I had made a lot of copy and Xerox and took messages to him that Ed Muskie wanted to tell him.
Albright also humbled by the honor.
I just can't believe it. You know, I was not born in the United States. I'm a naturalized American. I came here when I was 11 years old. So I'm called an American by choice, and I am so unbelievably proud and so grateful, because if it hadn't been for this country, I would have no idea what would have happened to my family, and so I've spent my entire life trying to give back.
And as she has been since the age of 2, Annie Glenn was at her husband's side.
We look at how his life mirrored the history of this country in nearly the last century. I think his real story is a love story. Would you agree with that? Because you've been at his side.
Well, I've known him since I was 2 years old. I think it's going to last.
Do you think?
We've been married 69 years now.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, I think you might make it. I think you 2 kids might just make it.
Well, he sure has helped me a lot, too. It's nice to do it together.